I want to go over the solution with you to Lab 7. And this was meant to be a challenging lab, by the way. So you didn't have detailed instructions, and it's hopefully helping you leap into learning to generate your own code eventually, starting to kind of puzzle things out. So I hope that you did spend some time trying to come up with some solutions. But let's go through my approach and see if it helps you out. So first, by the way, I've already hit run in the text there is just prompting you to click. So the way this is working right now is if I start to click with the mouse, there is a event handler used right now. I'm going to point out function mouse pressed. So to start with, that's telling it to do something when the user clicks. And I think the tricky part was finding a way to count. So I'm going to focus on that part because right now, if I click 5 times, I'm getting circles landing in random locations. But right on the 6th click, you'll see that I'm now getting squares generated after that. So let me focus on that part first with you. So let's go down into this function I've created using, again, the event handler mouse pressed, which is detecting the click of the mouse. And then I remind you that anything that is placed between the curly braces after mouse pressed function is playing if the user clicks. Um, and then I'm going to go to this if statement. That's part of it. Is it saying if the variable called circle number is less than or equal to 5, run this code block. And let's focus on that little piece because this is part of the puzzle of how it's counting the 5 clicks. And circle number is just the name of a variable that's been created. If you look up here, var circle number equals 1 is both creating the variable, assigning a name to it, and then it's giving it an initial value of 1 up at the top. And this could also have been written as let circle num equals 1 is a different way to create the variable. So that's where it's created. And then if you look down at the last line of code, this is the part that's making it actually iterate or count. So part of it is you'll see circle num is that variable name. Plus plus is shorthand for saying that every time we run this code, which is based on the click, that you should add 1 to it. A different way this could have been typed, by the way, is instead of going plus plus using shorthand for the operator, I could have just said circle num equals circle num plus 1. That's a longer way to do it. So again, the concept would be each time the user clicks, it's causing it to run all of this code. And each time it does that, it's adding 1 to the value of circle num. So it's right in this last line that this is turned into a counter. So each time we click, add 1 to that value. It's starting at 1 initially, but then based on the user click, it's understanding how to count. It's basically like 2, 3, 4. And then coming back to the if statement, this part will make more sense, I think, at this stage, that it's saying if this value is less than or equal to 5, give us a circle, run this code. And this is an if else statement. So if it's matching this condition, you get a circle, but else or otherwise, if it's over 5, go ahead and generate a square. So it's pretty clever, isn't it? This use of the variable and simply iterating it so that each time the code is run, it increases in value. And then incorporating that into the if statement to tell it what you want to have happen. And when run, you can put as much code as you want between the brackets of the if or else portion of the statement. So for example, if you want to add color, then I could go in and place fill with a color value just above circle inside the curly braces. So this is a simple example. There's just one object. But you, again, can have as many lines of code in the code block that's defined by the braces in your if statements. And maybe the other little piece to go over, if you like, in this piece is the randomizing of the position. That might be familiar, maybe from prior labs, but if it's helpful to talk about that, let's see that that's also done with variables. So up here, there's two variables created called pos x, basically position x, sort of abbreviated, and pos y. That's going to be used for y position. And then I want to remind you that if you do want to assign random, that you do need a variable and that you don't initially assign random. It kind of works better if it's down lower within your functions. So right here, actually on line 19 and 20 is where the variable names are initialized, or actually they've been given the value of 0 up here. So I should say they're being reassigned with a new value of random. And then the two values are giving it a minimum and maximum. And width, by the way, and height is kind of an automated way of saying the size of the canvas. -1 is sort of a way also of saying, let's keep the object on the canvas. Let's say the canvas size -1 pixel, just to make sure it falls inside. Just to explain that part. This could also have been written simpler. It's just something like 0, 399, since we can see the canvas is 400 up here. And then down in both circle and square, the lines that are actually creating the shape, I'll remind you that there's 3 values we normally plug in, and that's where the variable names are being inserted instead of putting in a static number like 5050. It'll then use and generate a random value each time the user clicks with the mouse on. And 50 is the size. Just as a reminder, if you're generating a circle or square, you have 3 different values, and the last one is the size of it. So in this case, we're using a consistent size. And if you wanted to, you could have another variable created up here that's also has random assigned to it if you wanted the size to be randomized as well. So that's it on this lab. And again, this was a challenging one. So I hope that you just at least spent some time trying to puzzle it out. And it's okay if you got stuck or you came up with kind of a different way to approach it. That can be interesting too.